Hello everyone, welcome back to Coach Craig Sports. Today we're going to be talking some bowl predictions recap for the NFC North and the NFC West. So these are going to be my bold predictions from the beginning of the year and kind of how they turned out, and then if there's a reason that they turned out the way that they did, that reason essentially. So first off, we're going to start in the NFC North. We're going to start off with the Chicago Bears. My bold prediction going into this year was Anthony Miller finishes as a top 30 wide receiver in PPR. This was a miss. He finished as the wide receiver 68 in PPR overall this year. We talked about him a little bit in my breakout recap as well. He just wasn't on the field except for 3 wide receiver sets, and that definitely hurt his value. Then we're going to move over to the Detroit Lions. My bold prediction coming into the year was Matthew Stafford finishes the season as a top 5 quarterback. This wasn't too outlandish going into the year. Matt Stafford in the 8 games that he played last year was on a very, very torrid pace. He was kind of banged up overall this year. He did play in every game. The one game he only had 3 pass attempts, so kind of rough overall though with all the injuries that he did suffer. Hopefully going to LA is going to help him out just a little bit. The result for this overall, though, was a miss. He finished as the quarterback 15 on the year. Like I said, he was banged up a lot of the year. It really hurt his production overall. Then my bold prediction for the Green Bay Packers was that A.J. Dillon scores 4 touchdowns or less this season. This was a hit. And going into the year, a lot of people were thinking A.J. Dillon scores at least 6 touchdowns. You know, they bring him in, big power back. A lot of people were thinking he steals some of that goal line work away from Aaron Jones. That didn't end up happening. Aaron Jones did lose some efficiency as well since Aaron Rodgers decided to throw the ball every time they were down on the 1-yard line, but that's a whole nother story. But like I said, overall, this was a hit. He only scored 2 touchdowns this year. I think A.J. Dillon has a pretty good future next year if Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams both do not come back, though. Then we're going to move over to the Minnesota Vikings, and this one was bold prediction. This one probably looks terrible looking back now, but Dalvin Cook finishes the season outside the top 10 running backs. This was a miss. He finished as the running back 2 this season. Part of my prediction going into this year was he was not going to be as efficient as last year, and he has an injury history. And he really only missed 2 games this season, so that definitely helped him out. He was very effective when he was on the field as well. Then we're going to move over to the NFC West. And for the Arizona Cardinals, I had Kyler Murray finishes the season outside the top 8 quarterbacks. Going into the season, Kyler Murray was getting a whole bunch of hype. He was being drafted, like top 5, top 6 quarterbacks, breakout quarterback for the year, the next Lamar Jackson. Everybody was kind of chasing that. I thought there was a realistic chance that he didn't finish inside the top 8 quarterbacks. It was a miss, though. He finished as the quarterback 4 on the season. He didn't play as good in that kind of middle stretch, though, after he hurt his shoulder. There's definitely an upside there with his rushings and his rushing touchdowns. Hopefully, the Cardinals kind of figure stuff out a little bit more this season, or maybe Cliff Kingsbury gets kicked to the curb, because he's not really a good coach, but we can get into that a whole nother different day. Then for the Los Angeles Rams, I had Tyler Higbee finishes the season outside the top 18 tight ends. This one was a just miss. He actually finished as tight end 17, so I really wasn't that far off, only 2 spots. I probably should have went ahead and made it that he finishes outside the top 15 at tight end. This was kind of a big deal, honestly, because a lot of people were drafting Tyler Higbee after the hype, after, that 3 or 4 game stretch at the end of last season where he was unbelievable. And I just wasn't buying it. I never bought it. If you guys watched all my mocks drafts going into the season, you knew I didn't buy it. I was pretty much beating a dead horse on that one. So definitely one that was really, really close, but a miss still regardless. Then for the San Francisco 49ers, I had Jeff Wilson becomes the running back to own in fantasy. And I gave this one a hit. Honestly, there was not a major 49ers running back to own in fantasy. Raheem Mostert had some flashes. Jeff Wilson Jr. definitely had some flashes as well. But out of the running backs for the 49ers, I would say he was the most productive one in terms of fantasy. He had 4 weeks of 20-plus PPR points. That was more than any other 49ers running back. He averaged 14.2 points per game in the 10 relevant games that he did play. So those were the games where he was either starting or splitting the workload. Definitely a guy to keep your eye out on for next season. I think him and Raheem Mostert might split carries to start the year off. I anticipate them probably taking a guy on like day 3, so probably like a 5th, 6th, 7th round running back, but nobody that's going to come in and take away from that workload right away. Then last but not least, we got the Seattle Seahawks. And my bold prediction was Tyler Lockett finishes the season as a top 8 wide receiver. This was a miss, and honestly was pretty close. He finished the season as the wide receiver 13. If you ask a lot of people that played fantasy football this season, you would think he finished as like wide receiver 30 because they're just like, oh, Tyler Lockett, he never helps me out. Well, he had the one big week. He had a big week 17 too, and I think this is just for first 16 weeks, so he probably would have finished a little bit higher in 17-week season as well. But Tyler Lockett, he's a guy that I've always loved a lot. I think Russell Wilson has great chemistry with him. Whether or not Russell Wilson gets traded, it's definitely going to impact his value overall, though. I mean, DK Metcalf kind of took that step up this year. He kind of faded later on in the season, though, too. So it was kind of mix and match between those two wide receivers overall for the Seattle Seahawks. But with that being said, these were my bold predictions for the NFC North and the NFC West, how they fared out. I think I did pretty good in these two divisions. There were some calls that I had that were a little bit too bold, but that's why it's called bold prediction. You're not guaranteed that it's going to happen. But I also think that, I hit 2 of them and then I just missed on another one. So I think that's a pretty good success rate for these 8 teams. If you guys are new to my channel, please consider subscribing. Definitely appreciate it. It really helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports. And that's really one for you, the viewers, helping you with your fantasy football, helping you with your DFS, whether it's NBA or NFL, talking all the football news this offseason. We're going to have a lot of news between the free agent signings, the cap casualties, the trades, and the NFL draft. As we get closer to the NFL draft, I've been looking at a lot of different prospects. I'll probably make a list, share with you some of my favorite ones, some of the guys that I think are going to be sleepers. And then after the draft, we're going to be talking some of the picks, going through kind of each draft class for each team and just seeing who I thought did well and who I thought didn't do quite so well. And then as we move forward into baseball season, I'm going to be covering some fantasy baseball and some baseball news as well. So if you're a baseball fan, if you're a fantasy baseball player, make sure you check that out as well. But once again, with that being said, if you're a new or current subscriber who's yet to do so, also hit that notification bell down below. It's going to let you know every single time I post up a new video. And like I've been saying, I post up daily NBA DFS picks for both FanDuel and DraftKings. That's all in one video. You guys definitely want to check that out. If you are playing NBA DFS, going to be covering a lot of different fantasy football content like I already talked about this off season. That's pretty much all I got for today's video. Hopefully you guys all enjoyed. Let me know what bold predictions you guys had for this season down in the comments below. If you have any bold predictions going into the 2021 season already, be sure to leave them down there as well. Definitely interested to hear what you guys have to say and how your bold predictions turned out for the 2020 season. And once again, I just want to thank you guys for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. Definitely means a lot to me. And I hope each and every one of you has a great rest of your day.